have to ask you,
Yes.
for people who are insecure about their gender, or for parents of kids who insist they're trans, how can they know whether transitioning is the right choice for them?
It's such a really great question, but it's it's going to be a difficult question here for me to answer. Number one, because everybody's sort of dysphoria is different, right? Number one. Number two, the most important thing, especially, and I'm going to talk about the youth, because, I don't necessarily feel like I have a space to talk about an adult making an adult choice, but I do have the space to talk about a young person who cannot make this choice in any way, shape, or form. They cannot. So I'm going to say to people who are underage and feeling that they need to transition, or that they might need to transition, or even that a parent might be struggling with it, the number one most important thing is therapy. And what I mean by that is getting them into some psychological mental health space. And what I'm going to also say is not affirmation therapy, not LGBTQIA plus therapy, none of that. I think they need to get into an actual real therapist, because what we're noticing is that a lot of these young people are dealing with other comorbidities, such as anxiety, depression. They could have an eating disorder. They could have, autism. I could go on and on, but we're not addressing the other issues. We're just saying that a child says, I'm a girl or I'm a boy, you just believe them. And that is the most absurd. If my parents would have I said I was a boy when I was 10, right? And my parents were like, okay, whatever. We'll just let you wear the boy clothes and you'll just be the little boy. And my parents said, we just thought you would grow out of it. And on some level, I did for a while, right? I did, because I didn't transition until 30. So from my own experience, my parents just kind of let me be. And I believe, and that's in the 60s and 70s. And I believe that parents, first off, are being put in a really vulnerable position, and children are being put in a dangerous, irreversible position, which I think is unfair to the children.
Yeah, and that really is the key word here. It's irreversible.
Yeah,
it's not something you can opt out of later, and that's a lie that a lot of gender activists, political activists say. It's not reversible.
Right.
Once those puberty blockers go into your system, then you're on that journey for life. And you mentioned then that the right choice for people is therapy, and you made the distinction between affirmation therapy and actual therapy. There's a nefarious culture, isn't there, within psychology now that leads towards affirmation rather than talk therapy?
That's right. That's right. And it's those two words should never even be in the same sentence. Affirmation therapy, then you're not going to therapy. I mean, let's just be real here. I'm so tired of people not speaking real. You know me, you said it in the beginning. I just am, whatever you want to call me, brave or whatever. I feel a sort of a push to bring back reality in this conversation. We've all been skirting the reality a part of this because everyone's too scared to be transphobic, because they put this sort of space where people, and they did it on purpose. They made it so people are too scared to say what I say. But being an elder in the trans community, and being someone who's probably one of the longest transitioned, female to males living today, and who's outspoken, I have a space to say this. But that being said, affirmation means you're just going like this. You're just going, oh, you're good. Everything is okay. When you affirm your dog, right? You're like, oh, good boy. You can't do that to a child who is struggling. You're doing a disservice to a child who is struggling with something that there's no way you can know what's going on with that child unless you go deep down, serious years of therapy. It's why I say nobody should be able to transition without years of some type of therapy. I even think adults, but again, I don't have that space to say that. But for a child, we're doing a huge disservice to a child by just saying, okay, you feel like a frog, right? Then you can just be a frog. Like, who does that? And how have we gotten to this space, Daisy? It is so upsetting. I'm a parent, number one. I'm also a transsexual person. And I'm very appalled at what we are doing in this community. We're not furthering our community. We're not being healthy in our community. We're not being honest to the world in our community. And we are destroying something that I have been a part of for a while and built so that you and me can walk the world together. And you've never had an issue with me or trans people before this insanity started.